Alrighty then. So I'm gonna try to do a couple of React videos, considering how long my React analyses tend to be, even when they're off the cuff. I might only be able to get around to doing a couple of these today. Uh, it might literally just be a couple, considering how long I yap. But this has been on my to do list to react to for a while. I haven't watched it yet, but I can already tell I'm going to have opinions on this based on the title and based off of the Twitter interactions this particular individual has had. Uh, just to be perfectly clear, I myself am Hispanic. I am a Tejano. My ancestors have been in Texas since before the Texas War of Independence. And in fact, my Spanish ancestors died fighting alongside the Texians, the people who actually protected them from raids from the Comanche and the Apache, and who actually set up the infrastructure for Texas when the Mexican government told, my ancestors to go fuck themselves. So, yeah, uh, I have a lot of opinions on, let's just say, uh, let's just say American Hispanic culture, which isn't very historically informed at fucking all. Hell, even in my own web novel that I've been writing, I put two Spanish names of real specific identifiable individuals who fought alongside the Texians just to prove a point in one of the conversations. So, again, uh, let's get on. To be clear, I don't know what form of Hispanic, just to be clear, Celestium is. She calls herself a Latina, but experience with the Hispanic community tells me that that doesn't fucking mean anything, to be perfectly honest. I grew up in a family which was demonstrably Tejano, where half the family thought they were Mexican when they had no ties at all to Mexico. So, again, not a very well informed culture. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Uh, and that's said from experience. But let's see what we have here. Again, I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to have a lot of opinions. Um, okay, yeah, it is reading my voice. Without further ado, let's get on with this.
Hello.
Hold on, let's actually turn this all the way up too.
Buenas noches. Hiciste taco department. ¿A dónde están mis tacos mexicanos? Mentadas, hola. ¿Cómo le va a mis americanos y colombianos? I thought Sunday was going to be the end of this nonsense, but clearly we have to keep going forward. They will never bring me down. They'll never get me. La migra will never get me. So today I found out that somebody made some fan art for me. And if you
Okay, so that. Oh. I can't really complain about this because my fucking audio balancing is atrocious myself. But the music is a little overpowering, and I hope I don't get copyright struck because of the music. To be perfectly honest,
haven't seen it yet, you're missing out because it's really funny. And it's so ironic because you would think that this fictional cartoon character that they drew me with would be defending the people.
and she is right about this. There is a thing I do have to mention before going into this. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with modeling your behavior after a fictional character for the purposes of like a ideal of conduct. In fact, actually, this is historically quite common. Uh, People used to model their behavior off of the ideals embodied in things like myths and fairy tales. And by the way, oftentimes the myths were understood to be fiction as a moral tale. There were obviously mythical realists, but there my Oshi's on apparently. But there were obviously mythical realists, but many people historically did know that the myths of their culture weren't meant to be taken literally. They were morality tales, just like fairy tales. Uh, and so it makes sense that in the era of fiction, when we move from folk tales to novels, and then from novels to things like cartoons and movies and digital media, it makes sense that like when you find a paragon of virtue, some people from being kids who grew up with that, would model their behavior after that, and it would influence positively their personality and their values as they grew up. Uh, because that's the instructive purpose of the story. Um, but yeah, she is mentioning that in the Twitter thread that she ended up getting into a spat with some ideologically possessed uh, retard who, for some reason, thinks that if you're Hispanic, you therefore owe your obligation to the left, um, which is an inherently wild thing to say because it basically means that the left owns you as a person if you're Hispanic. Um, there was one retard who decided to draw her getting punched in the face by Spider-Man, and under the premise that Spider-Man is would be against ICE. And oh, hey, Road, yeah, I'm watching this Celestial. I've been intending to do this for like a week now. Um, but the thing is these people know that that's a lie, and they don't give a shit. And I'm going to show you two examples to actually forward my case. So last video, I ended up watching a Skybros, which was by far my most wildly successful video so far. It's going to be hard to top that, to be perfectly honest. But I mentioned this particular post about to evidence my claim that they don't really care about what the sign or the symbol means. All they care is that they can manipulate it and its underlying meaning, which you can manipulate any symbol by the context around it, because symbols don't have meaning outside of a larger interrelation of meaningful symbols. So you can subvert a symbol without actually breaking the logic of the symbol. But they don't really care about that. Their purpose here is to break the symbol so that it's no longer belongs to its original context, but it now serves the dialectical agenda. And here we have a case of Amelia, where here's this fucking retard who there's always this one dipshit who's dumb enough to out their team in the game, to be perfectly honest. And I'm cool with that. It's a good thing that some of these people are this dumb. But that being said, this is a great case study. I call on all Twitter artists to draw more woke Amelia. Right wingers do not deserve a cute waifu like her. The reason they do this is right here. In the case of Amelia, right wingers do not deserve a cute waifu like her. Why do these people go and they attack the symbols that you grew up with as your childhood heroes? For example, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, He-Man, you know, uh, Supergirl, Wonder Woman, all of these characters that you grew up and probably loved growing up, the fucking X-Men. The reason they attack these people is because they know these characters is because they know these characters mean something to you, and they want to hurt you. And the way they want to hurt you is they want to demoralize you, to strip you of your values, to basically struggle the fight out of you. It's a sadistic glee these people get from destroying the things that you love. And this is an example with the whole Amelia thing. They literally made Amelia in a piece of propaganda. Propaganda basically being a modern form of spellcraft, the manipulation of signs and symbols in such a way to change the content of someone else's understanding of the world, to change their perception of reality. Think about what a magician does. A magician does exactly that. He exploits the limitations of your sense perceptions, and he makes you temporarily occupy a space that is blatantly impossible. But the magician has the decency to tell you at the end of the day that what he's doing is a farce. He's doing it for a show. Gnostic wizards, or propagandists, as we oftentimes call them nowadays, do not have that grace. Gnostic wizards do that very specifically the same reason a con man does that. And the tools that they use to cast their spells are actually pretty simple. They're rhetoric, so that's the manipulation of language. It's sophistry, which is the use of bad ideas backed by bad philosophy, and con epistemology, or which we could also call confidence epistemology or con man epistemology, because it's the same kind of authority that a con man has. You ever notice that thing where a lot of these people, like, they're so confident about what they're talking about, but they very clearly don't know what they're talking about if you know anything about the subject. But if you don't know anything about the subject, the confidence in which they carry themselves can be deceptively convincing. And so when you put this all together, this is how propaganda often works. And this is why we have this thing where they're trying to intentionally destroy the things we love. In the case of like Amelia, they completely fucking backfired on them because the spell that they were trying to cast, the game that they made as propaganda, it turns out one of the symbols in their game, it's the same thing like the nice guy from 6 years ago, where you had the nice guy who was bald, a bit chubby, unassuming, and he was like, "Oh, it's actually a bad thing that someone broke into PewDiePie's house." And then the comic tried to portray him as the villain, but the person in who the person trying to actually create this propaganda piece, the comic, didn't understand the people around her. So in trying to do this, the actual like character she made ended up breaking her own spell, breaking the point of the comic. Convinced no one because the new guy was objectively correct, right? The new guy was objectively correct, and it's the same thing that happened with Amelia. Amelia just happened to be that uh, self-defeating element in the spell that broke the spell before it had any time to really spellbind anyone. So that's why they took the game down, is because the game wasn't serving the function it was. So, but that's why they do this. The same reason they're trying to capture Amelia right now, even though she was literally a part of the spell that backfired. That's why they do this, and you see this in like we can mock this all the time. Again, like this popular fictional character agrees with my political views, but again, it's like historically speaking, fiction, folklore, mythology, it informs human behavior because human beings don't learn in abstract. They don't live in the abstract. They live in action and causal chains and sequences of events from moment A to moment B. So yeah, it makes sense that people would care about the integrity of these characters. I just wanted to point that out as we're starting this. I do think it's fine to deeply care about, for example, how these people are destroying the media you grew up with, especially the morality tales, which all of the superhero comics were, by the way. Uh, and I do think we should take those characters back over time, but I don't think we should just abandon them. That's our mythology. We should wrestle them back uh, into more sane hands. But I digress. Let's get back to the idiocy at hand.
And I saw this and I'm like, there's no way somebody did this. No, please don't go harass this person. Don't harass anybody. I think that would be obvious enough. Leave these people be. Let them be cringe. Let them do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is the internet, and you pit. As Kirsha says, you piss in the ocean of piss. Don't be upset when you get splashback. But you know, uh, yeah. Obviously, no one wants anyone to harass the artist per se, but you still have to say that because sadly enough, there's always going to be some retard who needs to be told it. I don't know if I can find it because I think this happened like a week ago, maybe. My sense of time is a little skewed for a number of reasons, so forgive me if my sense of time. That's funny. If I can find it, did I pass it up? Uh, let's see. Okay. Well, she'll probably show it in the video. Again, I didn't watch it, so if she does,
I feel like doing, because honestly, it's just funny. So we just laugh and we let them do what they want, but don't like seriously don't go harass and don't go like doxing. I don't endorse that. I mean, we can laugh, we can point fun. I don't know, but like just don't do what they're doing because when we start to do the same thing, we lose the plot, and I don't like losing the plot. But anyway, this.
well, I mean, yeah, she is correct in that the appropriate way to deal with this situation is to make the person the butt of the joke. You don't have to go out and seek someone to harass them. Yeah, the guitar is really loud. The sound really needs to be balanced. But you don't need to go out and harass the person, because honestly, just taking the piss out of them half the time uh, is enough to really get under their skin. Just make them the butt of the joke. Again, the people who think that they are enlightened, they're on the right side of history. You know, who gets to decide the right side of history, right? But anyway, the people who think that they're on the right side of the history, or that like they're enlightened, they cannot stand being made the butt of the joke, because being made the butt of the joke is intrinsically humiliating. That's the entire point of the punchline. The punchline is to take the piss out of the thing which is the object of the joke. That's why dark humor works. For example, I talked about this in the last video. Dark humor exists to take the piss out of evil, to rob it of its power. And in a sense, when you make these activists into the butt of the joke, you end up robbing them of the falsely self-attributed dignity that a lot of these people have. You know, you kind of expose them for being the whiny pissants that they actually are. So honestly, mockery is a really useful tool. You don't have to go out there and harass a person, but just take the piss out of someone when they're acting stupid online. That is one way to just again put someone, to try to put some frame into someone being an idiot. So
Young artist gave me the greatest honor a VTuber could never ask for, is people in the community making fun artwork, fan art, for my eyes to consume. And it's the thumbnail of this video. Let me know what you think. Tell me.
yeah, it's like I don't really see a situation outside of like some multiverse shenanigans that this could ever happen. This is definitely not something the Earth 616 Spider-Man would ever do. Well, okay, maybe under modern writers who don't really write the characters, they just write their own self-inserts into the characters. Maybe they do it. Uh, but, that's not really Spider-Man in any meaningful way. Ultimate verse Spider-Man wouldn't do this. It would have to be some kind of Elseworld Spider-Man, and that's kind of that's kind of the point. This isn't supposed to be your Spider-Man. The entire point here is to take a symbol that you care about and then retool it to mean the opposite of what it should mean in a normal context, and then call you, what would you call you a snowflake for pointing out that you know for pointing out what they're doing. You point out that like, hey, that's not what this character would do, and that you're just trying to make you're trying to hurt people by ruining the things that they love, you know, and then you get called a snowflake, even though it's like, no, people have a right to care about the things that they care about. Entertainment does have a purpose. Even raw entertainment that has no other value other than entertainment has a value. That value being that, when someone's had a long day and, they get home for work and they're trying to decompress, that's the purpose of raw entertainment, is to help a person decompress. That's why they put politics into all of your entertainment. That way you can't escape it. Because a lot of us, when we go to work, we listen to the news to try to figure, keep up to date with what's going on. Then you get home and you try to decompress, and then you're bombarded with this propagandistic messaging. You're being bombarded by this propagandistic messaging. The purpose is that you cannot find an escape. So, raw entertainment has to be defended because it's one of the things that helps people decompress so we don't go fucking crazy, to be perfectly honest. And we will see this over time as we've kind of just lost the willingness to put up with bad behavior at this point, because it never fucking stops. Uh, so the collective will to endure does seem to be degrading over time. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
Chat. Would Spider-Man do this to me? Tell me, chat. Is this what we've come to now? We're making Spider-Man punch minorities? I added the text, by the way, for the thumbnail.
And see, again, this is she's taking the piss out of the person who did this. Someone actually did an edit of this where they changed his fist into like a cream donut. Then fucking like the blood was changed into cream, like shoving a cream donut in her face. It's like, okay, yeah. See, again, you take the piss out of the people by doing the things that they're doing to hurt you back at them, but in a non-malicious way. Just take the piss out of them. Show them that they are not nearly as important and self-righteous as they think they are. take them down a peg. Humor has a function in these kinds of moderative, situations. I can't hear a goddamn thing she says.
Isn't this great? And it's a little graphic,
That is not graphic. That is not graphic. Blood does not equal. Okay, maybe because I guess the jaw and teeth are broken in this particular frame. Okay, maybe that is the graphic part, but no, this isn't really graphic. That's not really graphic in any real shape or form.
Tad bit. And I see this, and I already blocked the person who was part of the main thread because I'm gonna be honest, when a YouTuber says anything about me, I pray in my head that they will someday get out of what they're doing. But I also kind of ignore them because it's like, you cannot be moral grandstanding to me. That is for sure. I'm not better than you as a person, I'm a sinner. But I know what you're doing. So have fun with that, I guess.
Okay, so that's a contradiction. I get why she has this contradiction in her head, but that is a contradiction of terms right there. We can very well see a moral asymmetry between person A and person B here. There is a moral hierarchy, and they are not on equal footing here. Even if imperfection, and I'm just going to break into this because I do know she is an Eastern Orthodox, which means that she has a particular hamartia, or theory of sin. And she also has a particular soteriology, which is a theory of salvation, which is distinct from the Catholic view or the Protestant view. But this goes back to one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Eastern Orthodoxy. I love Orthobros, but the overly mystical element in rejection of the rational element of the Eastern Orthodox tradition leads to these kinds of problems. It's like, I'm no better than you, but here you are wishing violence on another person, and in her framework, contributing to people's addictions. This is not a stable this is not really a stable set of premises to hold at one time. I get why she holds this view, but again, it is a contradiction on her part. I would say she is in fact a morally superior person than the person who did this, and all you have to do is actually compare the two's behavior to see that one person's character is not equal to the others. This is not an all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others type situation, which is, I hate to say this, but kind of along the lines of what she just described, but in moral terms, not in communist terms.
And that person locked their replies, I think, a day or two ago, instead of trying to face me, because these VTubers, when you challenge them, especially with the ones who are so far left, that I think that they have absolutely lost the plot in life. They lock their replies because they know that they're gonna get lashing out, people lashing out at them, whatever. I don't lock my replies.
And that's a wise move. You don't lock your replies because just online, if you lock your replies, people are just gonna assume you're being a bitch, to be perfectly honest. And by that, I mean you're being a punk. Not in the sense of the old school punk, but in the modern sense of someone who can't back up the toughness that they try to portray themselves as. Honestly, the more effective route of just mute the conversation is a better route to take than that, because to be perfectly honest, everyone also understands the whole, I don't need to respond to you. You as a person, as a human being, you get to decide who is and is not worth your time. So it is a wise move on her part to just not lock the replies, to just ignore people. That is actually something people can do.
There was only one time that I did that. That was a Roblox thing at one point. But actually, no, I eventually did that most. But I don't lock my replies. You know why? Because it's funny to see what people respond with. And, there are some people that you can have a conversation with who disagree with you. And then I just don't care. Just go ahead. Both sides of the aisle, come in. Say whatever you want.
I mean, that's entirely fair, too. It's There is also the thing where it's like there are people obviously on the left who are still sane human beings. They just happen to have wrong beliefs. And you can talk with them. And I know this from personal experience. You actually can talk people out of untrue beliefs. You just actually have to sit down with a person or actually spend the time to have real conversations with a person. But you can talk a person down from even extreme false beliefs, to be perfectly honest. I've talked to people who were flirting with occult ideas and gotten them away from that, from actually just like talking to them about what they believe and then just having rational conversations about it. It is a thing you can do. It is a time consuming thing, but it is a thing you can do. And it is a thing I think we should all do. But in order to do that, you have to be able to permit wrong opinions in in your vicinity in order to actually engage with those opinions.
I don't engage with everyone, and sometimes it's impossible, especially when the post kind of blows up. It's kind of near impossible to respond to everyone.
Yeah, and obviously there's that. Like, first of all, you don't have an obligation to respond to everyone, especially if they're being a bit of a, let's be perfectly honest, a bit of a cunt. But you also, it's just physically impossible to respond to everyone once something takes off to a certain degree. And everyone knows this, to be perfectly honest. Well, most everyone knows this.
And I was looking because I think I forgot who shared this with me. Did anybody share this with me or I saw it? I don't remember. I saw this because I was like, you know, what were the last couple of replies? And
Please, Celestium, for the love of all that is holy, for the saints in heaven, modify the volume of the music. I didn't hear a damn word of that last sentence. I legitimately could not hear any of that. If I rewind it, hold on.
were the last couple of replies? And apparently.
I didn't hear anything in between that last word that was recorded on the caption and you talking again. Please lower the volume of of the music. The music's good, but I'm here to listen to you.
This young person made this fan art, and I'm just like, wow, they really the side that preaches tolerance and love and acceptance and peace, and God said to love your neighbor. Well,
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the point. The whole point is the subversion of structure in meaning. And it's also the reason why these people will hold on, what's it yeah, there was a I mean, fair enough, Road. But yeah, it's like they will subvert the meaning of words and then call you crazy for pointing out that you've subverted the meaning of words. There was that old meme of like, wow, I think you should be a more loving person. And the meme ended with, well, by love, I meant that you would passively bend to my will. Yeah, that's exactly how these people tend to define love. It's like if you don't go along with their particular idea, it doesn't matter whether or not you think that the opposite goal or the opposite, path is actually in the other person's best interest. By the way, the scholastic definition of love, to will the supreme good of another. It doesn't matter if you genuinely think that doing the other thing is willing the supreme good of the other, because it doesn't fit in with their framework, which is more based on emotion and more based on a consequentialist end goal. So not anything within your character, not anything, you know, based in someone's rational self-interest. It's more eschatological. Uh, they automatically disqualify it from being, loving. And part of that is that the scholastic definition, the old school definition of love, is rooted in a realist philosophy, is rooted in a realist ontology. The idea that like the real world exists independent of anything perceived. So that the real world exists whether or not we as human beings perceive it. The postmodernist notion is that there is no such thing as objective reality, which is another way to say that there's no such thing as reality, because reality by its definition, that which is real would be being. So there's no such thing as objective being. Um, and consequently, if there's no such thing as objective being, then there is only subjective being. And there is only a couple ways that subjective being can actually flow. It can either flow intersubjectively, which is what the queer theorists and the fascists believe, which is that reality is, in a sense, it generated through the interdependent intersubjective experience of human beings. Like we all perceive the world together, and in perceiving the world together, we, in a sense, generate the world around us. Um, which is why everyone has to be brought into alignment with each other in both queer theory and fascism. Ideologically speaking, is because if the world stems from intersubjective experience and we can control that intersubjective experience, then we can control the world as is, not just and make that speculative metaphysics real. The other way is obviously not intrasubjective, my bad, intrasubjective, so inwards, in which case the only thing that is real which is that which is personally experienced. And most leftists aren't intrasubjectivists, they are intersubjectivists. That's why they're collectivists. um but uh yeah, so the that that is one of the reasons why they do a lot of the things that they do, but it's also the reason that they define love so differently than like the people throughout history have is that if there is a real objective reality out there, then your mind, your consciousness is not primary. It's actually your body that is primary. You're not a dualistic thing. Your body cannot be separated from your soul, and your soul cannot be separated from your body because your soul is the vital principle of your body. But rather, what ends up happening is that in this particular postmodernist and Hegelian setup, it demands either idealism, so the idea that the only thing that's real is intersubjective experience. So consciousness is the only thing that really exists, and material reality is an artifact of it, or dualism, in the sense that matter and mind are two substrates, two things. Res is literally thing, and Descartes is the guy who came up with the uh, substance dualism, called matter res extensa, the extended thing, and mind res cognitans, which is thinking thing, are two separate things with no interlocking properties. How exactly these two things relate to each other, who the fuck knows, to be perfectly honest. But under dualism, you can either choose that you have to make a choice about what you actually are. You are either a soul, a ghost, in which case you are a ghost in a machine, no matter how useful the machine is, or you are a body, in which case you're not, in which case the mind is just an illusion. This is where we end up going from dualism to straight materialism. Under a traditional worldview, such as hylomorphism or like Aristotelian traditions, you are a body soul composite. The soul, quote unquote, is that just that animating principle of the body. It's the thing that makes a body living as opposed to dead. Uh, and the if there is an objective reality out there, then what would be the best interest to you would be intrinsically tied to what is the best interest of your body, because you are a living body. You're not separate from your body, just as you're not separate from your soul. You are your body soul composite. So that which is bad for your soul is bad for you, and that which is bad for, so soul would be character here as well, by the way. And that which is bad for your body is also objectively bad for you. And since reality, external reality is primary, then your idea about what you are and what would be good for you is secondary to the objective reality of what is actually good for you, your body and soul. So this is where the whole thing where the neo-fascist uses empathy. And I'm not using fascist in a broad term. I mean literally that, as in like the idea that reality is generated intersubjectively, because that's the basis of Italian fascism. Is that exact idea? It's called actual idealism. Um, these people, these neo-fascists, which is a lot of these people are queer theorists, by the way, too. Um, they redefine these words for dialectical purposes because they have this view of process philosophy. So the idea that what is real is not being itself, that is more of an objectivist, like Ayn Rand, Thomas Aquinas thing, Aristotle. Their idea is that reality is not being in itself, but becoming. It's constant unfolding. So becoming itself is what reality is. This is a contradiction in terms because if reality is becoming, then it never is, because it has to first be before it can become anything. So, uh, ultimately, when you actually examine a lot of these views ultimately go fundamentally to the dissolution of the human being and its replacement with something else. But we could talk about that at a later date. My point is, the reason why a lot of these people will subvert the terms that they're using is ultimately because they have a fundamentally different metaphysical view of the world, like what reality is, than you do. An objective person will put reality first and then truth second because truth is what corresponds to reality. An idealist will put truth first and reality second. So the idea before the being. So I kind of got lost in a tangent there. I guess we can continue.
Very loving of you. I saw this and I'm like, bro, there's no way someone drew Spider-Man punching my YouTuber. That was insane. I don't think Spider-Man would do that to innocent pink-haired woman just going about her day supporting law enforcement.
And she's right again. But as I showed earlier, these people don't really care about the truth of the claim. All they care about is whether or not this gets them the political power and the social power required to, what would you call, forward their own eschatological ends, because it is ultimately about the ultimate fate of human beings. That is what motivates these people if you actually get them to talk about what they believe. But
You're saying that Spider-Man wouldn't follow the law, and this isn't the first time I get like it's kind of funny or hate art. Let's talk about it. It's been an interesting day, and I've been getting more like replies to emails. I just think that people need to understand that you can have an opinion contrary to theirs, and there are plenty of legal Hispanic people who are tired of illegal immigration and mass immigration. I actually read something that someone said like,
I mean, she is right about this too. The thing that the left has conflated, maybe not in like not all of the left, but definitely the leftist talking points as of right now have conflated, is the idea of Hispanic with illegal, when this is very easily demonstrably proven to be untrue. There have been a lot of non-Hispanic people who have been deported by ICE, So that alone shows that the whole concept of illegal is not synonymous with the concept of Hispanic, because the concept of illegal would be broader than Hispanic, because you have people who are Caucasian, but not Spanish, who have been deported. You have people who are black, who are not deported. Some of these people came from the United Kingdom, by the way. We've had British citizens deported by ICE. So, again, obviously illegal and Hispanic are not synonyms, but even so, there are people who are Hispanic, who are here legally, who are citizens, and would not be subject to the purview of ICE, and have no concern about that because they're not going to be deported, because they're not here illegally. And me and Celestium are, I hope to God I'm saying that name right, by the way, are examples of that. We are Hispanic. She's a Latina. I'm Tejano specifically. And we are not illegal. My ancestors have been here since the founding of Texas and fought and died so that Texas could be American. Like, I'm not the same as a Mexican, to be perfectly honest. Like, my ancestor died so that I wouldn't have to be Mexican. It's not the same. The left operates largely on class conflict, and part of the way that they operate on class conflict is the obliteration of distinctions that make their narrative impossible. Once you recognize the common sense reality that Guatemalans, Mexicans, Argentinians, Chicanos and Tejanos are not the same thing, then the idea that then a lot of the narrative just falls apart, because it's not just one collective unimind that is operating. And this is why they get so pissed off when the Hispanics like Celestium and I actually disagree with them, because it's like there is this understanding that if you belong to the oppressed quote unquote trademark class, then you have an obligation to help fight against the oppressive class. In Marxism, this is pretty fucking obvious to understand. You have the bourgeoisie and then you have the proletariat. And this is why, for example, people who should have been in the proletariat but who sided with the bourgeoisie were called the petty bourgeoisie. They're class traders. Um, and this is they're class traders, and they apply the same thing intersectionally whenever they try to mobilize a different base under the same Marxian logic of two different classes locked in tension against each other that have to be resolved through class conflict, the inversion of the classes in their relation to each other, and their eventually sublation or abrogation into a single undifferentiated mass without distinction. And in the case of here, one of those groups would be Hispanic, the illegal. The illegal is oppressed by, Hispanics aren't illegal, but they do this for racial politics reasons in the United States. But this idea that critical criminal studies, where the illegal, the criminal, is oppressed by the judicial system. I mean, and that becomes a whole Marxian style class conflict in and of itself. They do this all the fucking time. Marx talked about the need to criticize everything that exists. Yeah, this is the ultimate root of intersectionality. Is all possible conceivable power dynamics have to be examined and criticized to unfold the Marxian view of history of everything becoming one collective, undifferentiated from each other. So when again people like me or Celestium end up speaking out against this whole process, we become class traders. And you saw this, for example, with some moron who was, saying you should have compassion. You're Hispanic. It's like, what the fuck does that have to do with the conversation? What does Celestium being Hispanic have to do with anything about ICE? Are you saying that because she's Hispanic, she has an obligation to not support ICE? I hate to tell you this, but a lot of the hardest supporters of immigration control are the people, one, who immigrated here legally because they actually had to put the work in to get here. Ironically enough, legal immigrants are some of the hardest line supporters of border patrol and immigration control. But anyway, I guess let's go.
Legal Hispanic really don't like the illegal ones because they undercut them for construction jobs and stuff. And I did not.
I did the woman thing of pausing and then explaining something before the person I'm listening to ends up explaining the thing I was just explaining.
Not think about that. Imagine getting your business cut by who you should consider your own people because they're legal and they want the job and they want the money under the table. Our economy, for multiple reasons, is going down the gutter, and I don't think people understand that illegal immigration contributes to a lot of the problems that we have, and it takes away.
Yeah, because again, your labor is itself a good subject to supply and demand. If you increase the supply at an unstable rate, you tank the cost of the good because there's more to go around, and the value of the means of exchange has not changed. So, for example, if you flood a country with untold numbers of illegal immigrants, all of whom are largely willing to work at already under valued prices, you price other people who are here legally out of the market. This is one of the reasons why it's more difficult for a lot of people to get good jobs or even just get into the workforce in the first place, is that they've been priced out because people who shouldn't be here are here, and no one is getting them out of here.
From actual hardworking Americans who would be willing to take on the work. And I don't know, man. If y'all feel angry about that, I don't know what to say. And I'm not such a...
That doesn't bother them because, again, it's not about how people actually suffer or perform. In reality, it is about the speculative metaphysic or the speculative sociology. They'll say it's sociology, it's not really metaphysics. It is metaphysics. There is a metaphysical presupposition built into the sociological project that they have, whether or not they choose to acknowledge it. But it's the utopian idea of it doesn't really matter if people suffer in the process so long as the perfected state is eventually acquired. And that's the whole idea behind progressivism. It's called progressivism because it's about progress. It is a process philosophy. It's not about being in reality, it is about becoming into perfection. That is the root of the error here, is about the speculative and treating the speculative as if it's more real than reality.
Cruel creature, and this is where people on the far right get upset with me, is that I still care about the families that get torn apart. But
well, I mean, yes, obviously, but obviously that's bad. But as the one guy said, you can be deported together. There's no reason that even if someone, like, let's say for example, a father commits a crime, right, and he has to be deported because he committed a serious crime, and he per the law, he shouldn't be here, right? There is no reason to break up this family. The family can leave with him. Are we supposed to let someone who broke the law stay here just because it would disadvantage the family that he currently has here? I don't think that that's really fair to anyone else in the situation. If you if you are actively transgressing against the laws of a country, and a country does have the moral authority to police who it lets into and stays in its borders, then it's like if you go into someone's house or someone else's property or neighborhood, and then you you violate the norms there. Yeah, people are going to be fucking upset with you. And yes, staying here, jumping the line, and disadvantaging the people who are trying to get here legally, the right way, and actually going through the process, a lot of us are kind of upset about that. Because again, you're undercutting the people who want to be here and actually want to respect the country that they're coming to, and you're undercutting them. Like, it's the first act of disrespect, is coming here illegally. Anyway,
ultimately, like, I'm still gonna follow the law, and I'm gonna support the law if they have to get arrested. It's not just the crime of quote-unquote being. A lot of people need to get fake identities. They don't pay taxes, and they're hogging up resources in the system that are meant for people who were born here or are legally here, and so you cannot come.
Okay, yes, I was hoping she'd get to something like this. Yes, it turns out that none of these are victimless crimes. I love the episode where Kirsha talks about the one guy who's been here illegally, and he had to commit identity theft against a person and sunk him thousands of dollars into debt. Actually, I think it was tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like, well, he's still not deported. Why the fuck is he still here? This is fucking absurd. But yeah, again, these are not victimless crimes. Again, when you flood a country, it doesn't matter which country it is. It could be in the United States. We're a large country, so we can eat more of the cost just because of how large we are. We shouldn't have to. But the same thing happens in Britain. You flood Britain with a bunch of people. It wouldn't matter if they're American or if they're Somali. Just anyone who's not British. Flood them with new people, and you're going to drive the cost of labor down. This is basic economics here. So like, everyone will be affected when the actual movement between borders is completely unregulated. And there's also the issue of, again, when you're talking about like the resources thing, there's also the question of like the integrity of a culture. Like, people interface with each other through their culture. That is the means through which people connect and people actually have a shared identity. So, and the ultimate root of a culture will vary. You know, certain places the root of a culture is ethnic. Certain places the root of the culture is primarily religious, and this has various effects on people. But the long story short is that when you displace a large number of people into a new region who do not share the same culture as you, they largely do not share the same values as you, which will change the character of the country over time. So there is the issue of, again, the English have every right to preserve England as England. The Scots have every right to preserve the Scots as Scots. Japan has every right to preserve Japan as Japanese. Guess what? America, which is a creedal nation, by the way, our nation was founded under principles outlined in the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is the source from which the Articles of Confederation and the U.S. Constitution derive their authority. If the Declaration of Independence is not a valid source of authority, neither of the two government systems that came out of the American Revolution are just, because the American Revolution itself has no moral foundation to it. And when you examine the U.S. Declaration of Independence, it's a creedal nation. There is a declaration of faith in the U.S. Declaration of Independence, and it's in the very first few lines. So the United States, isn't like a lot of these other countries because we have a different foundation than a lot of these other countries. Ours is creedal. It's not, for example, ethnic, which is like, again, with Japan and England and Scotland and Wales and Germany and France and fucking uh, well, India is not really one ethnic group. It's a bunch of fucking ethnic groups in the same place that have shared religious customs and cultures. But anyway, you get my point. Or at least I'm pretty sure you get my point. I'm being a little bit rambly right now. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about this. And as I explained in the last video, you want to live in a conservative culture, kind of need conservatives. If you want to live in a libertarian culture, you need libertarians. You want to live in a liberal culture, you need liberals. They need to share in a community a creed to create a particular culture that you're looking to actually create and preserve. You need to care about the cultural impact of all these things because, again, that's the identity of the place that you're coming from and leaving behind, because one day you too will die.
To me and say, oh, but the only crime is just being here. No, their crime goes beyond them just being here. Because if they were just here and they didn't get anything and they were just existing, well, I don't think they'd live long. And second, they're taking up resources that don't belong to them. At least not legally so. But I'm sure the sanctuary cities that have sold out their states are just fine giving them everything that they need. And when people talk to me about oh, you hate people. No, I don't. They are criminals. Because I can assure you, more than half of them are probably not paying taxes. And as much as I hate taxes, legally we are obligated to pay taxes. It provides a safety net for people who need it in our society, who are here, and they're, I wouldn't say entitled. I don't know if entitled is the right word, but could be entitled to it because they were born here. They're struggling, whatever the case. So don't you come to me and say, oh, they're just here. Why are you so upset that they're here? They're not doing anything to anyone. Yes, they are. And some go even further, and they're actually lawless criminals. I've been trying to catch up with the whole Minnesota thing, and I think we went over it last stream. They were stopping ICE from their investigation of an actual sexual predator. Why? What are we doing here? Sorry.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how that keeps happening. Interestingly enough, first of all, obstruction of an investigation is itself a federal crime. That being said, there is more criminal activity going on than that. And all you have to do is ask yourself, why are there 10 times the number of incidences in Minnesota than there are in Texas? I mean, for one thing, it's for one thing, Texas isn't a blue state, so I guess there's that. But then, Texas, a lot of Texans, even Hispanic Texans, want ICE in Texas, because we want the illegals out, the illegals gone, right? Back to your own country, uh, to care for your own people. But, where the fuck is I going with this? Oh yeah, but 10 times the number of incidents in Minnesota than there are in Texas. I'm pretty sure there are more ICE agents in Texas just because of how big Texas is and how large our population is in comparison to Minnesota. I'd have to double check that, and feel free to double check me on that. But I'm just saying, it seems really interesting that it seems to be focused on a very specific place that has an issue, deep systemic issue, by the way, with illegal immigration and money laundering related to that immigration. I find that quite interesting. But yeah, I guess there is a law that I think, again, this may get me in trouble, but there is a law I think needs to be enforced that very few people are bringing up, and I think that would solve. First of all, it would cause some chaos in the immediate future, but it would solve a lot of problems if we actually enforced one specific law in the book.
Ridiculous. And that's why I can't take some of these people seriously, because yeah, they're doing more than just being here. They're taking away stuff from us, and the price of everything keeps going up for a multitude of reasons, but that's part of the reason. Okay, and then there's less homes, less resources for the people. We don't even, it's crazy to me that we won't even take care of our own, but we're willing to go fight a proxy war in I don't know, in the middle of freaking nowhere. We're bringing a bunch of people who don't care about this country and just want to leech and not give back. Or if they give back, they're taking more than they're giving back. So it's really annoying. It's super duper annoying.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the welfare state is a fucking scam, and it always has been. It is an unstable scam that is going to make people's lives worse over time. But that being said, again, people who have paid into these systems are going to suffer because, again, money that should be going to what they paid into is not going to be able to go into where they paid into, partly because, again, let's be fair, politicians steal money. They will find a way to get their hands on your fucking money, even though they didn't do a damn thing to get it. But, yeah.
Yeah, have my family give me to you so I can sympathize. Yeah, and I can sympathize with both sides. You can still support deportation. And so for the people who are like on the far right saying that I backpedaled, I can assure you my opinion hasn't changed. But I do want to clarify that I am not an unsympathetic monster, because I do have family on both sides of the aisle. And it's hard, man. It's not easy. It's not easy to say, but we gotta fix our country. I'm not worshiping our government. I think our government has sold us out. A lot of people are doing you guys. But me saying that, and this is why I don't really care like left or right, whatever box you want to put me in, a Nazi, whatever words you guys want to come up with. You can throw them out. I don't care. But I'm gonna say it now. How can you pay taxes if you're not a legal citizen with your country? Yep, exactly.
So, it's hard to hear what she's saying, and I would really love to be able to hear what she's saying, but she's right to not care about the right-left thing, because right and left don't mean anything. Like, not anything real. And you can tell this by looking at the different positions that are considered right and left, and then noticing how they don't really share anything in common with each other. Like, what the fuck does an anarcho-capitalist, for example, a far-right ideology, have to share with National Socialism? Anarcho-capitalism is, by definition, highly individualistic and highly capitalist. National Socialism is, by definition, extremely collectivist. It's National Socialism. It is socialism based not on economics, but on the collective identity of the race. These have nothing fucking in common with each other. And it's not like the National Socialists really permitted any kind of free economics in their country, under their reign either. The only corporations that were allowed to run were run with a board member who had overriding authority over all other board members, who was a party member and loyalist. That's not a free market. These ideologies do not have anything in common with each other. They're not even hyper-rationalistic. Nazis were notoriously mystical. Like, again, I agree. I can't hear a damn thing for the most part. I can hear her barely, but the guitar doesn't fucking help. The like Nazis were provably and notoriously mystical. Very few anarcho-capitalists I've ever read or talked to are mystical people. They are usually very hyper-rationalist. Nothing fucking in common with these people. So why are they both on the right? Well, the reason they're on the right is because right and left doesn't mean anything. One is apocalyptic. Nazism is apocalyptic, just like Marxism. Whereas anarcho-capitalism, some of them maybe have utopian ideas to them, but most anarcho-capitalists are pretty down to earth of the world will never be perfect. But, which is why they usually support private military organizations. You don't exactly have to support private military in a world where we've solved the issues of human nature. So the better way to understand politics is at least the Nolan chart, which is what libertarians usually do. They usually break it down between like authoritarian and libertarian. So like whether or not the root of decision making is given to a authority or to the individual, or basically whether or not authority is externalized or internalized. And you could map that on a XY, a regular grid, where one axis represents the economic spectrum, so economically libertarian or economically authoritarian, and then the other one is civil spectrum, which is civilly libertarian or civilly authoritarian. But in reality, even that is pretty not reflective of how people actually engage with, the way that they actually view the world. You would actually need to have like 8 or 9 different axes to be even close to representing an accurate representation of human political discourse. Which, to be fair, most people don't have any time for that, and I don't have fucking time for that. And even I acknowledge that human beings and how they view things in the world really fucking complicated. To be perfectly honest, it's easier to just oversimplify people into a narrative of good guy, bad guy, when it's sometimes that is the case, but oftentimes it's just not that case. And it is intentionally obfuscative. The whole idea between like the left and the right wing comes from France, notorious bastion of Gnostic ideas, to be perfectly honest. And its modern formulation is derived from the conflict among the Hegelians. You had when Hegel died, you had the split between his students between the left Hegelians and the right Hegelians. Now, Hegel was one of the original progressivists. I'm using that term very broadly here. He wasn't actually a progressive, but his whole idea was process philosophy, was process theology. The idea of God not as being, but as becoming in the world. And you had the break between the right Hegelians who said, we have we have found enlightenment. We have found the perfect state, the state being the agent of God in the world. And so our goal should not be to resolve more contradictions that exist still, but rather to export our perfect system to the rest of the world. And if that sounds anything like the whole Bush era export democracy to people who don't want democracy, that is exactly what it is. It's just a American version of right Hegelianism. But then you had the left Hegelians, which include people like Karl Marx. And then from Karl Marx, the ideas of Adolf Hitler end up coming through, who all he did is he racialized the economic conflict. So he took the conflict of classes from the economic sphere and put it in the racial sphere. You had, for example, the Giovanni Gentile, the founder of fascism. Founder of fascism, incidentally, was in his early days a Marxist. A lot of his ideas are just a more pragmatized version of Marxist ideas. So on and so forth. A lot of these dialectical movements are just left Hegelian ideas. That's where the left-right spectrum currently comes from. It actually comes from a disputation within an occultic sphere, because it turns out Hegel wasn't really a philosopher. He was a fucking hermeticist. It's actually pretty apparent once you start learning how he actually uses language. Oh, it's not a Lutheran at all. He said he was a Lutheran because that was the way he was able to get respect. It's actually a hermeticist. Anyway, So I don't really like the left-right idea because it's an inconsistent and blatant, objectively false dichotomy between positions.
Careful, I hope you never show Facebook so you can right or wrong. Look, people can do whatever they want. I know that yeah, Marxist, yep. You can't fact checking, yep. Because you either need an SSN or you need an I-10, and I-10 is for international people who are not citizens, but are still here legal. And someone who's worked in like finance and accounting and stuff, it's ridiculous.
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know she worked in finance and accounting.
Someone's please for putting on my membership. You need to sell me more. I'll sell you the whole taco stand. But anyway, so Maria, you guys know Maria Grace. She's an amazing sister in Christ. I love her very much. She's also been under fire for a couple of different reasons, and I find it disgusting that people go after my friends.
So, fun fact, that has nothing to do with any of the serious topics that we've been trying to talk, but I actually saw Maria Grace's re-debut as Maria Grace. I didn't know she was previously Saint Usagi, so that part I did not know at the time. But I was actually in the chat during that stream. Just fun fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share with you guys her version of this image. I messaged her.
Yeah, you know what? She's gonna show the image I was talking about earlier in the chat.
One of the first messages, I was like, do you see this? And she's like, give me like 15 minutes. I'll go in Photoshop right now. George the Monkey, thank you for the $5 super chat. Yep. There. See? Center right, baby. That's where we're at, chat.
Yeah, so again, yeah, so she changed the she changed the image. She photoshopped it to be, instead she gets a jelly donut. I was like, again, this is how you treat these people. To be perfectly honest, there's no reason to get angry or bent out of shape when someone's being a cunt in this way. Just take the piss out of them. Make them the butt of the joke. Laugh at them. Narcissists cannot fucking stand being laughed at like this. Just do it.
That's center right. Alright, so Maria made this for me, and I think someone used rocks to put like a taco in my mouth. I was flying. This girl had me dying. She said, I really love jelly donuts. That's my favorite donut. Look, you can call me a baby, you can call me a kid, but jelly donuts are base, and if you think otherwise, I'm going to deport you next. That's not a jelly donut, that's clearly onigiri. You're right, sorry. I think
it's a nice Pokemon reference, but there is actually a C.S. Lewis quote that comes to mind. I don't remember the exact formulation off the top of my head, so let me look this up. There's actually my family hates it because I never grew out of watching cartoons, and my family hates it whenever I I quote this. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. Yeah. A lot of people get convinced to put the things that they genuinely love away, in a sense, to be respected. When it's like, nah, if my being respected means that I have to give up the things that I actually genuinely love and care about, I don't really need your respect.
Brock said that jelly donuts were those white things, so this is clearly not a jelly donut. Somebody get the Pokemon theme song in here. Copyright, of course. Welcome in, you guys. God bless you. Yeah. Oh, Jimmy is like, they steal SSNs. Yeah, they steal identitarianism. So they are.
That's way more common than people think. By the way, I actually found the one I was thinking about. This is a bit of a long one, but this is another good one. Critics who treat adult as a term of approval instead of merely a descriptive term cannot be adults themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire let's see, the grown up, because it is grown up, is to blush at the suspicion of being childish. These things are the marks of childhood and adolescence, and in childhood and adolescence, they are in moderation healthy symptoms. Young things ought to want to grow, but to carry on into middle life or even into early manhood, this concern about being adult is a mark of a really arrested development. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, oh yeah, and that's the part where I read part of the quote. That's why it rang similar to me. Um, so yeah, it's like I kind of stopped giving a shit about whether or not I was like, oh, you still watch cartoons? Why shouldn't I? In fact, actually, if you're a parent, I'm not a parent, but like, I tell my friends, it's like, look, if you're a parent and you're not watching cartoons with your kids, you're being negligent. How the fuck, especially in this day and age where you got shows like Dead End floating around right there, you got shows, you're being recklessly irresponsible if you're not watching cartoons with your kids. And this is why back in the day, kids' cartoons used to be family cartoons, because there was an expectation that you would watch these programs with your children because you were their parent. And it was your obligation to be aware of the things that your children were consuming because you're part of their moral formulation.
Criminals beyond because you cannot stay here legally and work. Either you work without a necessary license or you steal it. So don't come to me saying you're not criminal. Yeah, they're criminals. Now, could the intentions be good? Yes. I can imagine there are people in the US who, even if they commit the crime, like they're committing theft or whatever, they want to provide for their families, and I can get that. I am not beyond understanding there.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. That is a way to formulate it, but it's pretty easy to shoot that line of logic down by pointing out it's like, yeah, you're stealing from one person's family to provide your own family. When oftentimes you didn't actually have to do the stealing. So I find this line of reasoning very unconvincing, to be perfectly honest.
But that doesn't make it right, and we shouldn't support it. We should try to fix the system.
What was this cut? What was this cut? But yes, fixing the system obviously is a prerequisite. So there is one law that actually does solve a lot of the problems that we are seeing
for
nowadays.
Policy choice could well have them.
And let me find it. Hold on. It's yeah, here it is. It's 8 U.S. Code Section 1324, which covers bringing in and harboring certain aliens. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just. I don't want to. Let me pull up the thing. I don't want to pull it up on there yet. Okay. Here we go. Found it. So, I'm probably one of the most harsh people on this particular subject, to be perfectly honest. Because I want to live. Well, I clicked the wrong fucking link. The professional streamer, everyone, right? Because I want to live in a libertarian society. But in order to live in a libertarian society, I need to be able to actually to live with libertarians, to be perfectly honest. So I have to actually care about this shit. So, oh, for the love of fucking, are you fucking kidding me? Is this the, yeah, 8, 13. Hold on, let me check something. Alright then. Here we go. So here is one of the provisions of this particular law. See you, Lorraine. Let's see. Any person who, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has not received prior official authorization to come into, enter, or reside in the United States, brings or attempts to bring to the United States in any manner whatsoever such alien, regardless of any official action which may later be taken with respect to such alien, shall, for each alien in respect to whom violation of this paragraph occurs, be fined in accordance with Title 18, imprisoned not more than 1 year or both, in the case of an offense committed with the intent or with reason to believe that the alien unlawfully brought into the United States will commit an offense against the United States or any state punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year, and two, an offense done for the purpose of commercial advantage or private financial gain. Three, an offense in which the alien is not upon arrival immediately brought and presented to an appropriate immigration officer at a designated port of entry, be fined under Title 18 and shall be imprisoned. That's an and, by the way, not an or. In case of first or second violation of subparagraph B3, not more than 10 years. In case of a first or second violation of paragraph B1 or B2, not less than 3 nor more than 10 years, or any other violation not more than 5 or not less than 5 nor more than 15 years. So already that's a pretty fucking steep penalty for this particular crime. Let's see if I can find the other one. I'm gonna have to scan this quickly. Here it is. This is another important one that I think would actually solve a lot of the fucking problems, because I think a lot of people would potentially fall under this particular issue. A person who violates subparagraph A shall, for each alien in respect to whom such violation occurs, 1. In case of violation of subparagraph A1 or 5.1, or in case of a violation of subparagraph A2, 3, or 4, in which the offense was done for the purpose of commercial advantage or private financial gain, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. In the case of a violation of subparagraph subparagraph A2, 3, 4, or 5, 2, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. 3, in the case of a violation of subparagraph A2, A1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, during and in relation to which a person causes serious bodily injury as defined in Section 1365 of Title 18, 2, or places in jeopardy the life of any person, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. And 4, in case of violation of subparagraph A1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, resulting in the death of any person, be punishable by death or imprisonment for any term of years or for life, fined under Title 18 or both. Now, I think because of the way that this statute in general is worded, since it's about harboring illegals, I think that there's a number of sanctuary politicians who might be able to fall under this. Just me. That's just my particular suggestion. I'm just saying, maybe enforce this law, but this also seems like it could apply to businesses. Businesses harbor an illegal alien. Maybe we can find them, and if the alien per se ends up being involved in a murder, you harbored that particular alien. Maybe it's a way more severe offense that you have to be particularly worried about. And we've also seen that in the United Kingdom, charities, for some reason, non-governmental organizations, have been involved in smuggling people across the border. That also might be a group of people who might need to be investigated for such crimes as these, to be perfectly honest. I personally think murder is a very severe crime that needs to be taken very seriously. And I think if you harbor someone who then commits murder and they were here illegally, I think maybe that statute should possibly apply to you. I'm just saying. Or I guess we just send you to Canada for the MAID program, right? Tell them you got terminal cancer, right? They'll euthanize them for us, right? Under the Canadian dollar. All right. So That was Celestium. It's already. I was yapping about that for like an hour and 30 minutes. I gotta be more structured in some of this. Um, but yeah, there's my rant. My rat about this particular issue. I do think that this one statute, if actually enforced, would solve a lot of problems.